This is David Wheaton. The following is a short take from the Christian Worldview radio program. You can hear the full program at thechristianworldview.org. Tell us about how that changed over time. You've got into it a little bit, but how did it become this society of mental diagnosis?
I think you can actually trace your way all the way back to Charles Darwin, and he introduced a theory that is antithetical to the Bible. I think it's an incoherent theory, number one. But the theory is the origin of species teaches that natural selection is how we have positively mutated, adapted, and evolved cross species into humans. So what he introduced was more of a philosophy of thought rather than empirical, verifiable science. But what he did is he platformed materialism. And now, just after Darwin, comes the psychology in America and psychiatry in America. So about the time of Darwin, I show in the book a gentleman named Gifford Beers. He's a guy from Yale, graduates, goes out to the workforce, kind of has a nervous breakdown, and then is sent to an insane asylum. And he experiences the atrocities of being in an insane asylum in the 19th, 20th century. So just at the turn of the century, he spends about 3.5 years there, as I show in the book. When he gets out, he is on a crusade to really help provide asylum reform to those that are basically stripped of their basic fundamental human rights. So Gifford Beers starts using the term mental hygiene, and he founds organizations to promote mental hygiene. His recommendation is to imitate Europe and its psychiatric hospitals where neurological and mental diseases can be studied. What he was attempting to do was provide asylum reform and genuine help for the insane. What happened is that he created a category of mental hygiene that would later be turned into mental health. And that conflation of the mind and the brain was at the center point of Beers's recommendations that we need to study mental diseases. So how did we get here? Well, Darwin platformed Beers because now Beers can say, let's use a medical doctor to study the mind. And you're confusing the nature of the mind already. The mind is not material. If you're understanding the mind according to the scripture, Romans 12:2, that is that the mind is immaterial. It's the seat of our cognition, our intellect, our thinking. It's immaterial. You can't touch it. So now we're talking about the immaterial mind in material ways using hygienic terminology and health terminology and medical terminology. And what I try to show you is that that couldn't have happened without Darwin, but who made it popular? Beers made it popular. So now he starts 4 organizations that promote mental health and mental hygiene. And then that turns into this epidemic that really starts in the late 80s, 90s. And then now we're reaping the fruit of the confusion of that. When you begin to have an unbelieving psychiatrist who's trained in medicine that's trying to help you with your immaterial mind, as a Christian, you're not going to be helped at a fundamental level. You will receive symptom relief, or fruit swapping is what I call it in the book, where you're coping and managing symptoms, but you're not eradicating the problem. Or for many Christians who are going to unbelieving therapists and psychologists, what's happening is that the therapist and psychologist genuinely does not understand who they are because they do not understand the mind as the Bible talks about the mind, that you're to be renewed in your mind, or the state of the mind before you are saved, the change that happens at salvation, the implications of progressive sanctification on your mind. So we've gotten all the way to the point where as a Christian, I can go to an unbeliever for help with my mind, and yet that unbeliever has an unregenerate mind and doesn't even believe in the mind in the first place. In light of all of that confusion, of course, the problem is worsening. So that is, in a nutshell, the change. And for the listener who's hearing this, you have to read the book. I show you, I try to demonstrate for you, I articulate those organizations and Beers' statements, and I'm showing you through their words what happened.
This has been a short take from the Christian Worldview radio program. To hear the full program and connect with this nonprofit radio ministry, go to thechristianworldview.org. I'm David Wheaton.